And welcome to St. Peter's in Hove. I'm Father Alexander, and it's time for our 159th step in our walking tour through the Bible. Now, I was talking the other day about how in the far off days, all the monks, all the priests would recite each and every psalm once a week. Now, we recite all the psalms every 4 weeks. Some psalms are repeated, but some psalms are left out. And also, some psalms are edited. And the psalm we're going to look at now is an edited psalm. It's Psalm 454, brackets 55. The editing is just one verse, but that verse makes all the difference. It actually changes the meaning of the whole psalm. Well, here we go. O God, listen to my prayer. Do not hide from my pleading. Attend to me and reply. With my cares, I cannot rest. I tremble at the shouts of the foe, at the cries of the wicked, for they bring down evil upon me. They assail me with fury. My heart is stricken within me. Death's terror is on me. Trembling and fear fall upon me, and horror overwhelms me. Oh, that I had wings like a dove, to fly away and be at rest, so I would escape far away and take refuge in the desert. I would hasten to find a shelter from the raging wind, from the destructive storm, O Lord, and from their plotting tongues. For I can see nothing but violence and strife in the city. Night and day they patrol high on the city walls. It is full of wickedness and evil. It is full of sin. Its streets are never free from tyranny and deceit. If this had been done by an enemy, I could bear his taunts. If a rival had risen against me, I could hide from him. But it is you, my own companion, my intimate friend. How close was the friendship between us? We walked together in harmony in the house of God. And here comes the missing verse. Let's go to the Jerusalem Bible. May they recoil in disorder. May death descend on them. May they go down alive to Sheol, that's hell, since evil shares their home with them. God will hear and will humble them, the eternal judge, for they will not amend their ways. They have no fear of God. The traitor has turned against his friends. He has broken his word. His speech is softer than butter, but war is in his heart. His words are smoother than oil, but they are naked swords. Entrust your cares to the Lord, and he will support you. He will never allow the just man to stumble. But you, O Lord, will bring them down to the pit of death. That's the Sheol we heard in the verse that's been cut out. Deceitful and bloodthirsty men shall not live half their days. O Lord, I will trust in you. Now, why does this verse that's been edited out change the entire meaning of the psalm? Well, the psalm is one of vengefulness. He's calling down the vengeance of God on his enemy, on the traitor who's betrayed him. But if you take out that verse, you have the speaker, the psalmist, speaking more in sorrow than in anger. He says, but it is you, my own companion, my intimate friend. How close was the friendship between us? We walked together in harmony in the house of God. And in the next verse, he curses him and wishes him dead. Whereas if you leave that out, it seems that he's really just very upset because the person he loved has not loved him back. He has been betrayed. Now, of course, when you take out that verse, the whole psalm fits Jesus's betrayal at the hands of Judas very well, because Jesus calls Judas my friend, and Judas gives him a kiss. Judas is, of course, a hypocrite and a ghastly person, but Jesus does not blame him. Indeed, Jesus is more sorry than angry with Judas. So the whole psalm, there's more than a subtle shift in the way this psalm changes its meaning with the excision of that verse. Obviously, the psalm makes us think of Judas. How close was the friendship between us? We walked together in harmony in the house of God. Jesus, for example, in today's gospel, walked up and down in the portico of Solomon with his disciples. One of those was Judas. They walked together in harmony in the house of God. But now you've betrayed me, and I feel so sad. But in fact, this is not a psalm of sadness. This is a psalm of rage, anger, and, well, almost spite, wanting one's revenge. Okay, that's the second part of the psalm. I think this psalm, this particularly this verse, but it is you, my own companion, my intimate friend. If a stranger, if this had been done by an enemy, I could bear his taunts. If a rival had risen against me, I could hide from him. The sense of disappointment in that psalm, in that verse, and it is you, my own companion, my intimate friend. That sense of disappointment, that existential sense of disappointment. People let us down, don't they? And this gives this psalm a huge resonance. It makes this psalm, well, when we read this, we look to our own um, experience, and we've all been there. People we thought we could trust turned out not to be trustworthy after all. And of course, Jesus had that with Judas, but we have it all the time. But let's go back a bit to that famous line, over the wings of a dove, that I might fly away. Now, fly away to where? The man is in the city, the psalmist is in the city, and the city has become a very bad place. It is full of wickedness and evil. It is full of sin. Its streets are never free from tyranny and deceit. The city has become a nightmare landscape. So he wants to fly away like a dove and take refuge in the desert. The desert is only a few miles away from Jerusalem. So if only I was a dove, I could fly off and I would be safe in the desert. So now this is exceptionally strange. In fact, it's very strange indeed, because for the Jews, the desert was a horrible place. The desert was the place that was plagued by noonday devils. The desert was a place of thirst and starvation. The desert was a place of death. The desert was what they wandered through for 40 years, looking for a city they could dwell in. And of course, they came to the promised land, leaving the desert behind them. So after 40 years of wandering in the desert, they came to the promised land, and eventually they dwelt in cities that they had not built, but were given to them by God. And of course, the holy city above all, where God dwells among men, Jerusalem, the holy city. This concept of the holy city is one that we've inherited, and indeed we don't have a problem with, that cities should be holy. But of course, we're also aware, aren't we, the city of the dreadful night, Gotham City, the city as being a threatening, ghastly place, a place also of filth, crime, disorder, indeed in modern cities. If you consider the cities people live in today, many of them are places of crime, filth, and disorder, yet people want to go and live in them, don't they? Because the cities are much more interesting than the countryside. We who have lived through the Industrial Revolution many hundreds of years ago, we've romanticized the countryside. But the countryside's the most ghastly place for most people, and very keen to get out of it and go and live in the city. Okay, the holy, why? Because men flourish in the cities, we're told in another psalm. The holy city, though, well, men flourish in the cities because the city is a place where you meet lots of people, where the bonds of society are forged. The city is what makes city dwelling is the mark of civilization. And also the holy city, because God is in the city, God calls us into community, God calls us to be together. And the word city is full of theology. The City of God, St. Augustine's enormous book, which I, in fact, have read, and it's a very good book too, shows us that God calls human beings into community, and also the community to which we're called is a human community which is transformed by grace. The city is not to be rejected, rather, the city is to be sanctified. And yet, this chap is rejecting the city. He's saying, I want to go and live in the desert. I want to get away from everybody. I want to go and live in the desert. He's very un-Jewish, this chap. The desert was not the place that the Jews really liked. The Jews were city dwellers. It's true they also did farming and things like that. But for Jews, let us go up to Jerusalem was made them happy. The idea of wandering in the desert made them sad. We, of course, as Christians, have reversed it in a certain way, in that in the very early centuries of the church, people like St. Anthony left the city, left the settled community, and went and lived in the desert as hermits to be with God. Though, incidentally, the progenitor of all this, Jesus Christ himself, left the city, went into the desert, but did not meet God, but met the devil who tempted him in the desert. the desert was a place of testing and temptation as opposed to a place. But then the angels came and protected him, I suppose. But you see what I mean? How deep and pregnant are these words, city and desert. We, Christians and Catholics in particular, are attempting to build the city of God in cooperation with God who has called us to be in the city. It is a divine task that has been given to us to build up human civilization, to build a civilization of love. This guy has become exceptionally jaundiced, exceptionally prejudiced, exceptionally disillusioned. It says, the city, it's over. I give up. Oh, for the wings of a dove, and may God drag them all down to hell, is what he's saying. Not a very Christian attitude. Let's not give up on our fellow city dwellers. And incidentally, I mean, it is full of wickedness and evil. It is full of sin. Its streets are never free from tyranny and deceit. Yeah, I'm sure there are all sorts of bad things going on around me, even as I speak. After all, I do live in Brighton and Hove. But at the same time, it's a good place to be because the city may be full of sin. It's also full of opportunities for goodness. Okay, so the word city has got sort of twin aspect. It's a city of man, it's a city of God, but always the same city. They're not two cities, it's only one city. And the desert, we don't want to run away and hide ourselves in the desert. Well, what an interesting psalm that is. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope we'll meet again. Au revoir. Bye for now.